many of you are aware of Somaliland? Okay, so about 50%. How many of you are aware of the elections in Somaliland? A little bit less than that. So we I'm going to be presenting a snapshot of Somaliland, and then I'll go into some of the governance structures, the political arena, and also I'll take you through to our very successful 2024 presidential and political parties elections. I think we are the first country in the world that conducts political party elections. I don't think there is any other electoral commission that that conducts elections for political parties. So, as I mentioned, I'm going to focus on just a snapshot of Somaliland. For those of you who are not aware, I'll take you through to the Somaliland Electoral Commission, the legal framework, the timeline. We've conducted 10 elections. And then I'll take you through to the 2024 presidential and political elections, but with a focus on the use of the biometric voter verification, and in particular the iris. And once again, I think we are the only country that have conducted iris biometric voter verification in elections. So we do have a lot of lessons that others can learn from that. And as was mentioned earlier on, the challenges are almost the same in every situation. I was hearing yesterday the debate. The professor made a very good point in which he mentioned that it's not the leaders or the leader that makes a good election or good governance. It's the institutions. So the institutional capacity of the EMBs, it's very, very important, much more than the actual leaders. And then I'll sum off and I'll round off with recommendations and the way forward for us. So for those of you who are not aware, Somaliland is located in the East African peninsula, neighboring Ethiopia, Djibouti, and our brothers Somalia. We're also in the Gulf of Aden. We are a population size of estimated to be around 5 million. Somaliland gained independence from the British Protectorate in 26th of June 1960. Somaliland was never colonized. It was a British Protectorate. I have to emphasize that point. 4 days later, we've joined to form the union of what was called the Republic of Somalia at that time. But unfortunately, that partnership did not work well. So we reclaimed our independence in 1991, and Somaliland has been functioning without recognition since 1991. We've built our institutions, our government, and everything that I'm going to present from scratch since 1991. So I'm sure some of the older democracies can appreciate the roadmap that we have delivered in that very short period of time, and we're a long way. We still have a long way to go. Our constitution was set in 2001, and we have a multi-party system in which there are 3 national political parties. As I mentioned earlier on, the 3 national political parties have a 10-year tenure, and at the end of that 10-year, there is an election. So then anyone can, set up a political association. Then they go through formal election that is conducted by a committee that is outside of, the National Electoral Commission. And then the 3 political parties are then given a mandate of 10 years, in which the presidents, the local, the member of parliaments, and the local councils are, have to be, have to come through those 3 political parties. We do not have independent candidates. So the National Electoral Commission of Somaliland, our mandate is almost the same. And also, I think we've heard from our colleague in Sierra Leone yesterday, and as she explained, we have a very similar setup to that of Sierra Leone. We are responsible for voter registrations, elections, and referendums. It was established through the National Electoral Commission Act. It went through a number of phases, but the latest one is the law number 91, 2023. Our headquarters is in the Hargeisa. We have 7 commissioners, and the commissioners are elected from 3 from the political parties. They are selected, nominated by these political parties, and they have to go through the approval of the parliament. 2 are nominated by the current or the existing president at that time, and 2 from the House of Elders. We have 1 female in our electoral commission, Commissioner Fatima, and we have a long way to go in addressing inclusion, particularly gender inclusion within our system. So maybe I'll touch on that later on. We have conducted 5 voter registration cycles. We do not have an ongoing voter registration. We have a periodic voter registration process. And in our last election, we registered 1.248 voters who were eligible to vote. And we've successfully conducted 10 elections, as I mentioned before. Our polling stations are 2,489 polling stations. So we've had our first presidential election on the 14th of April, 2003. That first election was the only election that went to court because there was a dispute between the government and the opposition. The court ruled for the government by 80 votes, 80. So the opposition conceded defeat. So you can imagine a very fresh and new democracy. And the opposition, who were very strong at that time, conceded defeat by 80 votes, 80, not 800, not 8,000, but 80 votes. And then since then, we've held 3 other presidential elections. We've had a transfer of power twice from the ruling government to the opposition, the last one being the 13th of November 2024. We've had 2 parliamentarian elections, and our House of Elders is nominated, and they were nominated in 1993 and in 1997 as part of a reconciliation and the peace process following the civil war with Somalia. The local council elections were 3, and we've had 1 political party elections last year, so our next one is 10 years from now. So in our last election, we had 1.2 eligible voters. We had a turnout of about 54%, which is roughly between 50 and 60% is our general turnout. As you can see, this gentleman that is going through the iris voter verification was our former president. So everyone goes through the iris voter verification, including then the president. So what were the challenges? And as I mentioned before, when EMBs talk about challenges, you sit there and you think they are talking about my challenges. So these were some of the challenges, particularly following the discussion from India that the technology, the use of technology has a lot of challenges. For example, we've encountered power shortages. We've encountered devices that were faulty. But our law reverts back to the manual as the official process. So whilst we have a small number of technical issues, that did not delay the process of the voting, and voters were able to vote even in polling stations where we had issues. Staffing and logistics was a major issue. We have a large nomadic population in Somaliland, so finding the voters to register them before they vote, and then going back to deliver elections on those voters is quite challenging for us, because obviously the nomads tend to move around. So that's also a reason why we do have a low turnout for elections. We have political differences and disagreements following election, pre-election. We have not had a challenge or any violence or any disagreements post-election. Our judicial system is very strong, and people and political leaders often adhere to that. So leading up to election, that's where things get a little bit hot, and that's where our main issue of holding elections on time becomes a problem, when there's no agreement between the political actors. And our constitution does allow the extension of elections for specific reasons, as constituted in our constitution. As I've mentioned before, gender inclusion is one of the biggest challenges we have in Somaliland. We have our parliament that is made up of 82 members, where we have 1 female representatives. We have tried to get the quota through the law, but that did not succeed. So we have a lot of work to do. And I've spoken to the colleague that from the UN Women that we do have a lot of work to do from here. There's also accessibility issues because of the infrastructure for people with learning disabilities. So these were some of the challenges that we have found, and I'm going to round up and conclude because of time, some of the lessons learned. Our IRIS biometric voter verification system needs a robust infrastructure. So things, as I mentioned before, looking at power, training is also a major issue when it comes to the use of the BVVS. Transparency, I think, I was also a member of the International Observers Mission in Malawi, and I've learned a lot of lessons from them in how they do the counting and how they vote. Even they vote outside of the polling stations. So transparency is a major issue. As I mentioned before, political agreements. Initially, the uptake of the IRIS for verification, some of the political actors, particularly the opposition parties who are now the ruling party, were very hesitant to use the BVVS, the IRIS BVVS for the election. So we took them through a process where we piloted in polling stations. We've also took them through a process in which we agreed and came to a consensus that we will conduct them in certain areas, particularly in the urban areas, because we found that through the pilot, the use of the IRIS biometric voter verification also supported the time that it took manually to search for individual voters. It took less than, I think it was 1 point something seconds to find, the voters. So that was also an encouragement, and it was agreed, and that's how we delivered our IRIS BVVS. We've had a number of international observers from UCL in the UK, from the Brenhurst Foundation in South Africa, members from Kenya who were international observers and who've all deemed the Somaliland elections to have been conducted in free, fair elections. So as I've mentioned before, the institutional capacity is a must for us. The Electoral Commission, as I mentioned, is selected, and we have a 5-year term, but the turnaround and the cycle does not allow the institution to be built coherently. So those are some of the areas that we need to focus on as we move forward. I did not want to bore you with details, so that is all for now. Are there any questions? Thank you very much.